Today is an absolutely super duper exciting day for us here in Team Activate Distributors. And that is because we have one of the most incredible people joining us all the way from the United States. I know it's late there for him right now, but wow, I cannot wait to hear what he has to teach us today on Axio and NAD. So let's get started and let me introduce Dr. Brett Brimhall. He has been married to his absolutely gorgeous wife, Holly, for 26 years now, and they have 4 super divine children. He has been in chiropractic business for 22 years and has been training healthcare providers all over the world since 1995. He and his father have pioneered the 6 steps to wellness. As part of that system, he trains on nutritional supplements and chiropractic tools and techniques all around the world. His passion for helping people achieve their full potential in health and now been expanded to helping people with their wealth. In 2014, he had a paradigm shift where he saw changes in a patient that he had been working with for over a year with a brand new breakthrough technology. He is on an absolute mission. He is on as part of the LifeVantage Science Advisory Board with a publicly traded company and sharing this life-changing science and opportunity with the world. It makes me so excited to introduce to each and every one of you, Dr. Brett Brimhall. Welcome, Dr. Brett.
Hey, so good to see you. I'm glad we got this going. I'm excited for you guys getting NAD and Axio both. It's going to be awesome.
I am very excited. So guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A. I've got some pre-made questions for Dr. Brett, which he is going to share his thoughts, feelings with us. And then at the end, if you've got any questions that we haven't answered that you would really like answered, pop them in the chat and I'll be keeping an eye on them and we'll be able to answer them at the end if we have a couple of minutes. Sound good?
I'm excited about it. And preface this, I'm grateful that you're leading this charge because that paradigm shift for me was understanding what we have our hands on, which is nutrigenomics, which understanding that we have an ability to tap into the healing potential inside our genes. And it all comes down to the concept of you can literally, the way you combine product ingredients matters drastically in the results that happen to the human body. And so just excited to kind of have, kind of go through this process and explain a little bit what we're seeing and get everybody fired up for what they're going to have.
That's amazing. And I'm so excited because I know I've been on Protandim NRF2 for 6 years in September, and I will never ever go a day without it. And so it makes me even more excited to know that we're getting 2 incredible products that you guys in the United States have had such incredible results with already over the the past years that you've had these products. So I'm going to start with NAD because that, as everyone knows, is launching on the 21st. So that is next, I think, Wednesday, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. So Dr. Brett, I'm going to ask you first and foremost, what is NAD for those of you that don't know what NAD is?
Okay, so I'm going to show a couple pictures. I think that'll help. The short answer, NAD is a communication molecule in your body that over time drastically reduces in its production. So without NAD, we can't live. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple places where it is, because you have to have this in order for your cells to communicate. And so think of NAD as a communication molecule that allows the cells to communicate within themselves and around and with each other. So just like in relationships, if the relationship can't communicate, the relationship is going to die. And so in our body, without communication, the cells literally are going to have struggles and not perform well. So let me share a couple pictures and I'll bounce back and forth a little bit. That way you can kind of see it. And I'll I actually got this, some of this presentation from Jesse Allen, who made this for us, so it's nice. So tell me if you can see that. You good?
Yes,
All right, so
perfect.
you asked me the question, what NAD is. So NAD is this molecule that it has these functions. It helps stabilize our chromosomes. So that's the map of your material for your cells to make things. It controls sirtuins, which you'll learn a little more about what that is. It controls neurotransmitter function, which neurotransmitters, that's how your brain communicates. It controls aging. It controls the energy production of your body, your immune system, and also the DNA repair. So every time a new cell is made, the body has a mechanism to check to make sure it's coding it correctly so it turned into a new happy cell. And NAD has a huge influence on that. So what that boils that down, what that means for you and I, it helps our brains. It controls how our body stores or eliminates fat. It ties in directly to our heart function, our pancreas function, which is our blood sugar, our liver, and our muscles. So it literally is everywhere in your body. It's the biggest concentration of NAD and mitochondria, for that matter, are in your heart and in your brain. Right. So think of energy and then like focus, concentration, all those things matter. And I want to show you this one picture because NAD, because this is a picture for those that are medical. This is how your body makes energy in the mitochondria. And so all you need to know this, it's a recipe, right? In order to make the recipe to make what the body takes in oxygen and makes energy. I want you to show you this really quick. NAD is found in multiple places. It's here. Okay, it's here and it's here. So it's here and it's in multiple places. So without NAD, your body cannot make energy. If your body cannot make energy, this cell dies. So in a short answer, that's NAD. That's why it's super, super important that we have it. And the reality is as we get older, we don't produce as much.
Wow. I'm mind blown. I didn't realize how much of a need our bodies required NAD on an absolute second basis. Everyone needs NAD and everyone needs it as, for as long as you live, essentially. So you talked about what NAD is. What are the main benefits that you see from activating NAD?
So here's the thing about NAD is the main benefit is that with it, your cells can repair and your cells can communicate. Right. So if we're going to boil it down to the simplest forms, is that when you have NAD, your cells can literally make new cells, they can make them healthy. Right. So for each of us benefit why, what that means is your cells can act more youthful. And most people, when they're younger, they're more vibrant, they're more focused, they have more energy, they can do more things. It's like everybody watches a little kid once in a while, like, man, I wish I had half their energy. You hear people say that. Well, that's kind of the key tie into NAD is with it, your cells have the ability to manufacture energy, and with energy, you can do things.
Yeah, wow. I always see those kids running around at parks and you're like, oh my gosh, they've been running around for hours and they're still going. I wish I had that energy. So I definitely know what you're talking about when you say you wish you had the energy of a child. So we obviously have, you say that people young have active NAD pathways, I guess you could say, but who would you recommend be taking NAD activation from LifeVantage?
It's interesting as you read out there. So as you start looking into NAD, and it's really come to light huge in the last few years. There's a Nobel Prize given for it back in 2016. And so you're seeing more and more about it all the time. They're calling it there's literally saying if we can figure this out and have the body produce NAD, the potential to live healthier and longer becomes a reality. Right. So the question really is like you ask who needs it. Well, part of that is how you feel and then how well you want to feel. And then part of that's how old you are. And I'm going to say how old you are based on not only how many years you've been on this planet, but also how biologically old you are. So some people, you look at them, they look much younger than they are. So there's a difference between chronological age and biological age. So the way I look at it is who doesn't need it. Well, anybody that's alive and wants to be alive could benefit. Now, for those individuals that are struggling, right, with energy and focus and concentration, and so you struggle with controlling your blood sugar and things like that, this can directly tie into that. So those are ones that it's a necessity. The reality is, between when you're 50 years old, you're making less than half you did when you were born.
Wow.
Right. So, and that's a drastic difference. So you look at people's energy levels when they're young and when they're older, it ties directly into this molecule. Right. But it's
Yeah.
very different than just giving it and we'll talk about this in a minute, but it's what we've done with Life Advantage, which you guys all know this, is we're not a supplement in the sense of we aren't just giving the body the ingredients. So we're not giving it NAD. We're turning on the production of the engines to make NAD much more efficient, because the body can make it and it can recycle it. And so we want to do both. And with the NAD that Life Advantage created, it does both of those things.
So I guess I'll tie into the next question, which is there are a number of NAD products out there that claim to boost your NAD levels or provide you extra NAD. How does Life Advantage, you touched on it very briefly there, but how does Life Advantage's NAD differ to other NAD products?
Yeah, so it's comparing things. For instance, let's talk about vitamin D. When you walk in the store, you look on Amazon, you type in vitamin D, you have like 100 vitamin Ds, and they're all different priced, right? So the most expensive one is the one that doesn't work. So when I look at supplements or anything, or even automobiles, the one that doesn't work is the most expensive, because it's not getting you what you want. All right. So when you look at any supplements, and it's like, what do you want? Well, I want my production of NAD to be optimized. That's what we want. So we want the body's ability to produce NAD, because by doing so, we're turning on the body's ability. Let me kind of go back to this slide here. We're turning on our body's ability to help repair the cells when they're made. We're helping them with the metabolism. We're helping control how the cells manufacture themselves. So it's super critical. Like, without this, we don't have life, right? So when you're looking at products on the market that basically are what they call precursors. So for instance, in order to make NAD, you need certain like ingredients, right? So you'll hear a lot about it's called NMR, right? So NMR is a specific precursor. We use the word precursor, think of it as an ingredient. Like, I need eggs to make bread, right? So it's a precursor or an ingredient in order for the body to have it, in order to then use that as part of the recipe to make the NAD. All right. Whereas when Life Advantage is creating things, what you're talking about, NRF2, NAD, or NRF1, there's very small amounts of the precursors or the ingredients, because most of the time the people are getting the actual precursors, but their body is not utilizing it to make the thing. If you've ever remodeled a house before, you can have all the material there, but there's no workers there, or there's no power to the house to basically to have the tools to turn them on. So with this, so when you're looking at NAD, if you're out there looking and shopping for an NAD precursor or NAD enhancer, almost all of the ones you're going to see are some form of the MN and MMR, because that's a precursor. It's an ingredient to help the body make NAD. What Life Advantage is doing that's vastly, vastly, vastly different is it's turning on the assembly lines to utilize the ingredients that are in your body and in your diet to make NAD, but also recycle it.
Wow.
It's very, very different. So the way I liken it, so we hear about supplements, and then we think about this term we call activation, which is what we're talking about here. So think of it like your children, if you have children. Like, when my kids are little, I supplement their income a lot. Like, in other words, I give them the money or the food that they need in order to just get through their day. My goal with them is that I help activate their ability to make money, their ability to perform a job, their ability to be successful in business and in life. So your cells want to be activated in order to do things on their own. So yes, we want the ingredients, which there's some amount of those ingredients in the Australian form of NAD, all right, and the other things that turn on the assembly lines to make NAD.
Holy wow. I loved the analogy of, when your kids are young and supplementing what they need to get through a day, which, rarely rings true for so many of us, because, I look at ingredients and I think, wow, they're great ingredients, but I don't really know what it's doing, or is it activating, or is it just supplementing what I need every single day? So I really loved that. I know the answer already, but have you found any other product in the world that compares to Protandim NAD?
No, and they're really, and I have not. And it goes back to what we do at LifeVantage. So my dad, he's a nutritional formulator and a chiropractor. He's made over 200 different products, right? So when we studied and made things, I used those for years. If I train physicians on, we literally read research and you say, well, if I can combine these things, so I give the body everything it needs to make the thing, but we didn't understand we didn't have the ability to test like LifeVantage does, to test the actual genes and the end result, right? And so I don't know another product that does this, because I don't think most companies think this way, right? It's a very new science, and you also have to have pretty big pockets in order to do this type of testing. Like you'd have to have a laboratory to be able to test and see what happens in the cell when you combine different things. So we look at the Australian version and the US version, they're different ingredients, but they are different, combined together, activate the body's ability to increase the sirtuin molecules, which are the molecules that literally are the communicators to tell the cells what to do. And so the fascinating thing about that is that the Australian, so if you look at the tri-synergizer, NRF1, NRF2, and NAD, and then you look at the US one, the Australian one actually activates the sirtuin better than the US one.
Wow. So what you're saying is I'm going to be shipping over Australian NAD over to you in the States.
Probably. I just found this out too. I'm like, for real? How do I get me some?
I love that. I'll send you some on the 21st once it gets into Australia. So I guess we'll talk about that. How does the Australian NAD version compare to the USA version?
Yes, that's what I'll go through here a little bit. So this is the pathway for your body to make it. You don't need to know this. Just know your body can make it from tryptophan, which comes from protein, right? It can recycle it as well through this pathway here. Okay, this is what you hear about the NMR, nicotinamide riboside. That's what you hear about a lot. And so this is what most companies are doing. They give more of this molecule in order to just kind of feed that forward. Now you're going to have, that's called a rate limiting step, means that eventually you max this pathway out and you're going to produce X amount. Right. So let's just say at most you can produce 100 widgets in an hour, 100 molecules in an hour. Right. Well, once you've given all you can, that's the max it can do. But if you can turn on these other recycling systems and stuff, then you're going to have higher levels of production. When you go back, you say, well, who would benefit from this? If they're alive, they'll benefit. Right. What you'll feel is we don't know. So the reality is, like, for instance, most people that die of a heart attack had no symptoms. So 50% of people that die of a heart attack never had a single symptom, right? So if we're waiting for a symptom in order to do something, that's probably not the most ideal thing to do. So if you want to be proactive, this is a huge pathway. That's why you're hearing about intermittent fasting and ketogenic type diets, because that activates this pathway through diet. Right. So if you're not really good at doing that, this is a very easy thing for you to do. All right. And you asked a little bit so this is what we can say. It supports energy production. So if you have energy in your mind and in your body, what can you do more of? Whatever you do better. It maintains general health and well-being. There's so many people walking around here that really don't feel well. and they go to their doctor and the lab tests are normal, but they don't feel well. Right. So this could benefit them. It helps them maintain bone health. So if you're somebody that's worried about your bone health, this can have an impact on it. And check this out. It supports collagen formation. I know you guys don't have collagen yet in your market, but when you do, holy smokes, right? But collagen is everywhere everywhere your body stretches. Joints, ligaments, tendons, skin, hair, nails, blood vessels, like blood-brain barrier, all sorts of things. So, but NAD has a specific impact upon collagen formation. Right. So when you look at what LifeVantage is doing with these products, they're saying, hey, where do we get the biggest effect in human health? By activating the body's inborn ability to make things. That's nutrigenomics and activation. So if you have an individual that struggles with their health, odds are this pathway doesn't work real well, some of these pathways. And maybe you have a family history of a certain thing. Maybe it's heart disease, or maybe it's like, my family died or struggled with this or this. Well, maybe somebody's genes don't function as maybe yours functions at 70% and somebody else is 80. What you're going to do with activating these pathways, you're going to optimize those pathways. Right. So those individuals, maybe younger children that are struggling with in school or learning or behavior or in whatever way, or maybe they have more like they struggle with like environmental problems. Maybe it's because those pathways are not as efficient as they could be. If you could make them more efficient, their symptoms might improve. Because at the end of the day, you have a child or a human that's manifesting symptoms because they have systems that aren't working well. So we're going to improve the systems.
Yeah,
okay.
wow.
This is what's in it. And you can look all this stuff up for fun. Like if you're like a research junkie and you want to know what each individual thing does, like it's cool, right? So go to pubmed.gov. I'll kind of hit that on AgeWell in a minute. Yeah, go there and research it, but understand this. Like if I want to make something and a recipe, it's crazy the amount of things I can make with flour. But depending on what I make, I have to have very specific amounts and very specific amounts of other things. And I have to bake it at the right temperature, the right period of time to get the result. Right. So when it comes to these ingredients, yes, don't get hung up on the ingredients so much. Understand LifeVantage has already gone through the process of testing them together to see how they play well together and how we activate the pathway. Right. And so by doing, then we're getting maximum, improvement in the systems of the body. Because here's, I think this is this. So the tri-synergizer, this is the cool part. So when you combine the tri-synergizer, obviously we get the sirtuin activation, which sirtuin, that's when people intermittent fast or basically starve, like they activate sirtuin, that's the cleanup part of your cells. Better energy, provides antioxidants, which we know gets rid of free radicals, helps decrease the free radical damage to the body of the cell. But check this out. This is what I was telling you a minute ago. So the sirtuin protein in the US tri-synergizers, this is when testing all three together, right? Total sirtuins. So the US increases it by 55%, which is unreal, phenomenal. Okay. So I've never heard of anywhere close. I think the highest I've heard is 26% with another product. The Australian version is 101%.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
So that's one of the benefits of not getting the product first. Right, because you learn things, right? And so as they learn things, they find out other things that they can test and depend on different markets. But the result is we have better effect on those cells. So what cells? Every cell in your body. Every cell in your body. So what I tell people, always give it time, and this was with anything. And the way I explain the tri-synergizer, for those that maybe haven't heard this, your tri-synergizer, they're literally they're used together to affect the whole body. Because if you what if you could improve the cell's ability to like repair, right? And what if you could then improve this energy production? And what if you could improve the cell communication? All three of these do that together, but then they work together. And the reality, the way you feel today is a result of how well your systems are functioning. And it's not as a result of what happened yesterday. It's been really for the last several years. So as you're wondering if it's working, if you're taking these things, it's working. Like it's working on improving the systems of the body. Now, what you might feel is different. So the result of how you feel today is a result of what's been going on for years, but give it time. And I see a minimum for people is a minimum 6 months. Now, I say that because every cell in your liver is typically replaced in about 6 months. A red blood cell that's produced today lives 4 months. So if I'm doing it for 6 months, I give your cell the whole new chance to have a whole new blood cells coming in with good stuff. So, but your body, if you're dealing with like issues related to brain function or bone health, those don't repair real fast. So even longer. But for me, it's a lifestyle thing. Like I want to have my body feel and function ideally. And so I do things like I exercise, I eat clean, I take these things, not because of how I feel, but it's because of how I don't want to feel. Right.
Totally.
I want to function at a high level. But if you're already struggling, give it time. Give it time. But just know that if you're taking it, because it's been tested in mammals, in mammal cells, we know if you're a mammal, that you have these systems, and if we can improve those systems, then your body has the ability to function at a higher level. Because just like if you made 40% more money this month and you made it every single month forever, you're going to pay off bills first and then probably repair some things you've been wanting to fix for a really long time, and then you're going to want to go on vacation. And so the cells are no different. They have to repair that. They have to just get through the day. And then they can, as they repair stuff, they can like breathe a little bit. And then once they're robust, they have extra energy, they do other things.
Yeah, wow. So you would recommend for a, average 30 to 80-year-old adult, 6 months on the Tri-Synergizer. Is that right?
Yeah. And I say, well, if you're 21, right? I'm gonna say anywhere if you're not having somebody else take care of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What I mean, if you have any level of stress whatsoever, school or work or anything else, like where if you're not independently wealthy, right, and you have stress, in my opinion, then that's when you should start. Minimum.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because if your body's under stress, it's going to break down. So if you're one of those people that want to be proactive in your health, like there's huge benefit to do it then. Now, if you have somebody that's younger than that, right, they're having health struggles, then there's a possible reason there as well. But especially once you're past like 30, 35, like this system really starts dropping drastically. And if you want to work on the prevention side, you'd start sooner. You take elite athletes, like they're not trying to not feel good. They're trying to perform well. So if you're about performing well, you start now. If you're one like I'm already having symptoms, you start now.
And
if you're
so,
one, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you go.
No, fine.
With that, how there is a question that which I just thought I'd ask now. Your kids, how old are your kids, and do they take the Tri-Synergizer?
Yeah, so my children now are 15, 18, 20, and 23. But they've taken the Tri-Synergizer ever since we've had it. So anytime they've so I know kids as young as like 6, 5 taking it.
Just by itself or in the Tri-Synergizer?
Both. So for most time, I like the Tri-Synergizers because it's effective. But if I have an individual where they can really, based on budget, then we may make a decision on that, on what's best for them. But and from my Nerf 2 is my favorite, so that's kind of where I go first.
Yeah.
But if you're dealing with brain performance type things, the NAD is like going to be right there, one of my tops.
So you would maybe cut out an Nerf 1 if there is some type of brain.
If I had to, I mean, even though I hate to, right?
Yes, totally. But there would be. So is there any? Is it safe, and can you take NAD on its own by itself?
Yeah, you can definitely take it by itself. There's no reason why you could not. And then, is it safe? So obviously, as a company, we're going to say it's not been tested on kids. All right. So if you go back and you look at the ingredients, though, all these are natural products. Right. And so it's safe, yes, but it has been tested in children. No, it has not. Now, I feel very comfortable giving it to my own children.
Yes.
right? Much more, I feel much more comfortable giving them this than I do a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi or a Twinkie or a Ding
Totally.
Dong, right? And so I really wish people would study their food as much as they look and scrutinize a supplement, personally.
Totally.
But from a company standpoint, is that, and I'll just tell you this honestly, like, talk to your physician, but like but the way I always ask them, is there any harm in taking these type of foods at whatever age? The answer is no.
Yeah. And essentially when you take, if you were to pull the capsule apart, you've got those 4 ingredients plus, a couple of little extras that, and I'm sure that most kids in their normal day-to-day, diet would get parts of those ingredients anyway. And it's exactly the same as NRF2. Kids are
Correct. Yeah.
getting green tea, turmeric, milk thistle in some way, shape, or form in their diet, or hopefully they're getting it in some way, shape, or form in their diet. But as Dr. Brimhall said, it is always good to go back to your healthcare professional and ask their advice if there is any questions.
Yeah, a good way to kind of keep in mind, look at this, is that your body and your cells are most susceptible when you're really young and when you're really old. So, and the way I view the world, then that way, it means that if somebody's really young and their body's in the act of like building, it'd be critical for them to have the right nutrition then, and then also when they're really old, right? Even though in my opinion, everybody could benefit,
Yeah.
right? But those are 2 key elements where I think it's had a high probability where they should be using something like this. And the reality is most humans don't get these things in their diets. Like
Totally.
they just do not. So if they're not getting these things in their diet, they're not getting it, which means their cells don't have what they need.
Totally. Which is really sad and scary, because I know I don't want to age. I would like to age gracefully, and with the least amount of side effects physically possible. So what I know you mentioned before, it's really difficult to pinpoint what people are going to expect when they're taking NAD, but what would you do?
Here's what I would expect to have happen. I see this quite commonly. Energy, like they just feel like they're just more focused. They're more in the zone. They feel like they sleep better. They tend to have just they go to bed. They feel more rested, like, and they wake up feeling ready for the day. Just like more fluid. What I mean by just that their body seems to feel more fluid. I hear a lot of things where they feel like they're more mentally sharp. There's some of the other things I would look for. A good habit to have is, because humans, we don't really know how we feel unless we don't feel good. And so if this is the kind of a good practice, write down, all the things you wish weren't there, right? Before you start taking it, and pull that out in 3 months, and you'll notice a lot of them are gone. You won't realize it because you just gone about your day and you just quit paying attention. That's one thing to look at. And then, like, good way, if you haven't, just be aware of like how much you walk and do, and you'll find that naturally increases. You won't even realize it. You stand up later, get more folk, get more done, more on task. Typically people are happier too. Like, there are a few people that maybe you in your life that just they just seem like they're more down, they're not as focused, they get grouchy easier, right? Those are things that you also will see.
Yeah, wow. And so I guess I'm going to ask you a question, and this is based on my personal experience when I took Axio, and I am assuming there will be people out there that may feel the same thing, but I got the jitters, and I felt like I had taken way too much caffeine in the day. Do you recommend is there a preference for people to take it morning, night, with the Trisynergizer all together? If they get
Axio or Nerf or the NAD?
NAD.
Yeah, so general rule of thumb, guys, is always take your supplements with food, right? They're concentrated food, and so now there's some people they can do anything on an empty stomach, doesn't bother them, right?
Yeah.
And so, but as a general rule, this is a food, so take it with food. And there are some people, and there's those people, there's like, and they smell a flower and they have an allergic reaction. They're just super sensitive. Again, those are individuals. You're probably going to take a lesser dose, and you're just going to go start them off slower, and always obviously do it with food. So there's those individuals that are more. I don't have that very often, but the reality is, people tend to do better doing all 3 than they do with just one, because when you're doing all 3, in my opinion, you're supporting all the systems versus just one.
Yeah,
And when
totally.
these products were developed, they're developed to work in tandem with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Which I think for me, I probably wasn't taking all three as religiously. And so I was maybe only taking NRF2 and NAD. So it is a great reminder for those that can able to afford the Tri-Synergizer, work with the Tri-Synergizer. You can always lessen the amount you take. NAD is 2 capsules a day. So you can always lessen it to 1 a day if it is something that you're struggling with. There is a quick question about dosages for kids. So
Yeah.
I know it's not something that the company recommends, but if you were to give your 5-year-old son some NAD, how much would you give him?
So generally rule once a human over 70 pounds, they're 75 pounds, they're adults. Right. So think of it more that way. And so there are some adults that are tiny. Right. And so I look at it both in weight and also in severity. So you might have a child that's 5, but they have severe symptoms of different things because of what's going on in their world. Maybe they really don't handle the environment well. I may give them a full dose, but I would maybe start them at a half. I start them
Yeah.
with 1 and see how they do.
Yeah. And like the others, can you break them up? Like, can you open the capsule? There's
Yeah, you
no
can
problem.
open the capsule up, put them in smoothies. We do it all the time, put it in smoothies or, applesauce is another favorite of ours, something like that, and have them eat it.
Amazing. So that is absolutely, my mind is blown. And as soon as NAD, the Australian formulation comes out, I don't think I'm ever going to miss a day, and I'll just send some over to you in the States.
Yeah, the one thing about the NAD for me personally, like I don't typically feel supplements. Like I take stuff I always had since I was a little kid. The NAD, I feel a sharpness with it, just like a little more acuity.
Wow. And that was day 1 you started taking?
Yeah, first time I took it, I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And I can't wait, I guess, to see when, LifeVantage brings out other products, how they're going to interact with these incredible Tri-Synergizer. So
Yeah.
it'll be very exciting to watch. I know that there's a new product to launch in October, which is super exciting. So let's move over to Axio. Axio is coming October 15, and oh my gosh, Axio is my drink of choice. I've got some next to me. So can you tell us, what is Axio? And is it different to the Australian version? I know we're launching caffeine free at the moment. So we're launching red raspberry first, and then we're launching, I think it's dragon fruit next. So what is Axio, and how does it differ to the United States version?
Okay, awesome. So actually, the whole reason why I'm in this company is because of Axio. Axio was a product that Carrie gave her son. I'd worked with her over a year, and I literally watched him unfold in front of my eyes in about 11 days. Became more verbal, behavior drastically changed. His ability to recall things that we'd worked on months previous was there. So, like, this is why I'm here. Like, I heard about Protandim, wasn't super familiar with it. Thought I was using a product that was doing what it done. It was not. So guys, everything that LifeVantage is making is different because they're asking a different question. Can we activate the body's ability to do what it's designed to do, but do it better? So when Axio was developed, it was developed to address fatigue, and specifically brain fatigue. They weren't trying to be an energy drink. They weren't trying to give somebody a shot in the arm of caffeine. They say, because what is happening is most people give up mentally way before their body would give up. Way, way, way before. And most of us today are mentally tired even more than we're physically tired. So, and mental fatigue in one person may look like overwhelm. Other people may be lack of focus. Other people may feel like they can't stay on task. Others may be like just always being hard on themselves, or not being able to sleep. Right. So that's a tired brain. So think about when you're tired or your brain is tired or overwhelmed, what does it feel like? So when the brain is tired, it has a hard time learning. It has a hard time recalling, and it has a hard time remembering. All right. So when Axio was developed, it is out to address that brain fatigue so it can learn, retain, remember, recall, and sustain, and have a slow, gradual back to normal. but brain, as it learns to learn, and it continues to learn. So as the effects of axial are cumulative. So as the brain learning, it continues to learn, and continues to learn, and continues to learn. Right. So that little boy I was telling you about, literally, like today, you would never known he struggled. I mean, he's normal school, honor roll every semester, super social. I mean, just nothing you would ever dream possible. Because many of us are out there, our brains are having a hard time recalling things and remembering things because it's tired. All right. So that's just across the board. Like all energy drinks on the market are designed to give you like a jolt. That's literally why they're designed. They're not designed to address brain fatigue. That is not why they're made. They're designed to give somebody a jolt so they sell more. And guys, there's a ton of them being sold everywhere. All right. But I've never heard of somebody say, man, this is my healthy energy drink. I've never heard that. They don't drink it for health. They know it's not good for them, but they like the alertness that they feel. So this is a healthy brain drink designed to address brain fatigue, mental fatigue. Now the ingredients are different, but the concept is the same. Every country had different rules. Like, well, what can go in a country, what can't. Canada and Australia are some of the toughest, right? It's just, they're very good at what they do. So what I'm excited about, and I haven't tried this one myself, right? Because I don't have the Australian formula yet. I'll get something when I'm kind of curious. But what I do know is I know how LifeVantage makes product, and I know the people behind the product and how they make it. And so I know they've tested it. All right. And so if you look at each one of these ingredients, the asparagus, the camellia, magnesium chloride, nicotinamide, peroxide, and hydrochloride, each individual one of these nutrients are powerful in and of themselves, right? Just because of what they do, whether it comes to like, there's some studies on this. You go to pubmed.gov and you can look up, the camellia sinus, and you can find studies on depression. Asparagus, you can look at on dementia and Parkinson's. Magnesium, it's got so many studies on brain health, it's not even funny. Nicotinamide and focus and concentration, right? So every one of these individually by themselves have power, but when they've been put together, you're going to get that sustained effect without a crash. And then to put into something that you can literally drink on throughout your day, so your brain's on task, firing on all zones, right? I'm going to show you a couple pictures here. You don't need to know this other than just know the energy drink market is not slowing down, it's only getting more. And you're seeing more and more studies talking about how it's hurting people. So when people ask me all the time, well, is it safe? Well, I tell them, you need to research that friggin' food you put in your mouth more than you're researching the supplement, because that stuff is killing you. Right. And I'm really straight with people, but I want them to just question and research, but look for a reason to do it. Don't look for a reason not to do it. So this is my nephew's handwriting. On the left-hand side, it would be before he took Protandim Nerve 2 and Axial. 2 weeks later, this was his handwriting. All right. So keep that.
How old was your nephew then? How old was the
nephew? He was 9 years old at the time, but I've been taking care of this little boy since he was born. Just really anxious all the time, nervous, didn't play well with others, had to stay in at recess all the time, just struggled. Right? Struggled, right? And the Nerve 2 and the Axial literally, but this was his perception of what a word would look like. So his brain's ability to take a word and then to write it on a paper, this is what it saw. But once it was activated with Nerve 2 and Axial, it's like it could interpret the world differently. Right?
Wow.
So imagine then what this individual feels about themselves. Right. So we can talk about all the science. If you want to look at science, there's some really cool science on all those things I showed with you on there. But the bottom line is that the company's done the hard work. That's one thing about LifeVantage. They do the hard work on the business side. They ship the product. They do it. My job is just to give people the education and to help them make a decision. Right. And they handle all the rest. But this little boy wanted to be successful. He didn't feel successful here. Here he felt successful. And it didn't have anything to do with the teacher. Didn't have anything to do with him, him sitting still better. It's just his brain didn't have what it needed. And I
Would have
remember
felt like a whole new little boy, I reckon.
what's that?
Would have felt like a whole new little boy.
Well, he really, and every time I see this, I'm reminded, like, if this was a guy that went through high school, like what might happen to that kid, that child? Because a lot of people that are doing energy drinks or other things, they're doing it because they're trying to feel better, but they don't know of other alternatives. And this is the big deal. This is this is a young man's grades. And you'll see the kind of the writing up there. It says this 2 years ago, he was in special education, struggling with B's, C's, and D's in regular classes. Now he's even in AP classes where he's getting college credit and crushing it. So this little boy had a concussion when he was younger. His mom and dad are occupational therapists, and literally they specialize in brain rehab. And so they did all the therapy. It wasn't until they got Axio and Nerf 2 into this little boy that all of a sudden his brain started to learn, remember, recall, right? And so I'm gonna give you a couple examples of children, but this is the same for adults. Like if you're under stress of any kind, your brain can benefit. What are you gonna feel? Focused, in the zone, can get more done and not get upset so much.
Wow.
Right. So for those individuals that are maybe sensitive to caffeine, there's people out that are, right? You got to understand that if you are, then the decaf is going to be the best version, the low caffeine one, right? And if you're even symptoms of that, like there's some people who give them a Hershey Kiss and they stay up all night. They're just so sensitive to any form of caffeine. So always do it with food. Don't do it on an empty stomach. Like, the only time I've hardly ever see any type of like where they get a little bit of a buzz is if they do it on an empty stomach.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Wow.
some people love that. Like they take their caffeine on empty stomach. They like that buzz, but I don't like it.
No, I'm not a fan of the buzz, but I know that I am very guilty of getting the non-healthy brain food to try and get me through the day, especially being a health professional, trying to get through those busy shifts, which I'm sure you're well and truly familiar with.
Yep.
So caffeine versus decaf.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you mentioned people that are sensitive to caffeine maybe stick with the decaf, but is it safe for children to drink the caffeinated version? Or...
Yeah, again, so just kind of coming back to the company stance, right?
Yeah.
It is they're going to tell you it's not been tested on children. All right.
Totally.
But have you guys ever seen a kid drink a soda?
Yes.
Right. And they don't ask that question, right? So, and then when you're talking about medications for kids specifically, or even adults with ADD, ADHD, what do they give them? They give them a stimulant, right? So they give them a stimulant, a methamphetamine, right, which is a stimulant. And so the reason why many people have a hard time focusing, the reason why energy drinks are so popular is caffeine and sugar focuses us for a short period of time, but then there's a crash. So there are sometimes huge benefits to the caffeine version. There's a lot of people that you'll get them and they'll feel focused and then go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay. So play it by ear as to the child's reaction. Again,
if you have a child that's super sensitive to everything, or even an adult that's just super sensitive and they know that, like if they breathe a fume in, they're reacting, or if they're just like, there are those people that are like canaries in the coal mine. They're just super sensitive. So start with a decaf, right?
Yeah.
But I like the caffeinated version because I feel like I've gotten better results with it. But I've got both. So my habit is I'll do caffeine morning, decaf afternoon. That's the general. Right. So if you're dealing with somebody, if you're one of those individuals and somebody that really is their goal is brain health and brain focus, well, there's gonna be a huge benefit doing this a couple of times a day. And when you look at like things like Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases, everybody that I'm reading, like they said, we need to work on this 20 years before symptoms shows up. Right. So prevention is the key. But like with all of us, like how many times have you reached for something when you're tired? Oh, you guys ask that question. Like when you're tired, what do you reach for? Most people drink Coke or a candy bar or something, right? That to give them a little bit of shot, green tea, whatever it is. Well, what the body's saying is tired or it's stressed. I need something to kind of get me through that. Well, here's a phenomenal alternative without the downsides.
I love that, because I know for me personally, I'm the one who, when I'm tired, it's another coffee. And then I get to the point where I've had 4 or 5 coffees in a day and my body then just absolutely struggles. So I have now started doing the caffeinated version morning, decaf in the afternoon, and I've felt absolutely incredible. So last question on Axio, and then I've got a couple of different questions people have popped in the chat. So Axio, comparing to Mother, Red Bull, I know you mentioned that you don't have V, but think like your sugared energy drink.
Well, I thought I had some. I usually keep some of my covered here to show people, but they're in my office. There is no comparison. And remember that those are not designed as a brain health drink. Yes, you will feel a buzz, right? But like, most people that are using that, they have to use higher and higher doses to get the same effect, just like a drug. And many times they feel yucky after they've done it. Like, they might have a jolt, but it's not clarity. So there's a big difference between like an energy and a clarity. Like with this, you're gonna have a energy lift but a clarity, right? And that's the goal. Like, where you're clicking on cylinders, you're getting a lot of stuff done in a hurry. That's clarity. So that's what you'll see. That they don't compare at all, because in my mind, because I know what this is doing, I know what those do. Those are just, lack of a better word, dangerous. They just are. Like, I've seen so many people like just, and they drink them, and they don't think twice about it, and they question the supplement. But like, they're not designed for health. At least none of the ones that that are sold on the market. There may be a few out there that are being created from other companies, but I don't really think very many of them are asking the question. So think of nutrigenomics in a drink. Right. So when they're using this, they're again looking at how to activate. So even the green tea that's in Axial in the US version is different than one that's Protandim, because it has a different effect. There's lots of different forms of tea.
Perfect, because that was one of the questions, is that the NRF2 and NAD and obviously Axio all have a varying type of green tea. So the question is, NAD, NRF2 and Axio have green tea extract, which will increase the ratio of green tea in a total combination per day. Does that play in effect the synergistic effects of those products? Is it?
Yeah, the way they're designed, like, remember when these are being designed, they're designed to be used together. Like, even some of the studies that have been done on the tri-synergizer and how they have a cumulative positive effect on each other. And that's more testing we'll do in the future too, and how they will interact. But that's as you listen to people, they start taking and combining products, they just feel better and better, because they're designed around the idea of how to work together.
Totally. So, that, I guess that answers the question. It's great to take NRF1, NRF2, NAD, and Axio all together, because they're all working on different things, as Dr. Brimhall explained. Someone asked, do you recommend someone starting, if they've never taken any LifeVantage products, do you recommend them starting absolutely full hog on NRF1, NRF2, NAD, and Axio all in the same day, same?
Full hog? Is that a word? Full hog.
Full hog. It is now. It is today. Let's trademark it.
I like that. So going back to what I said earlier, for most people, I think that they can go right on. I go full hog, as you call it. Now there are those that are again, they're sensitive, right? And so I would start one and go to the next, go to the next. I would say that's the minority of people, and they know who they are. So if you're listening to somebody and they say, look, anytime I do something new, like, my body, adapts. And I always want to use the word like adapts to that versus reacts to it. So when I exercise, I react to exercise because I get sore. Well, that's not really reality. My body's adapting to the change, right? So when you start adding in these things and you're increasing your body's ability to do things, it might adapt, right? But if you're one of those individuals that you are, you don't adapt well sometimes, just start slow. And so I have a lot of people that start like literally the tri-synergizer and Axio, and they're great.
Yeah.
Right? But there are a handful of people, you just go a little slower.
Yeah, totally.
Someone asked in this thread here about pregnancy. Again, like I said, it's not tested, right? But when I go back to who needs this most, the young and the old. And last I checked, most people that are pregnant don't sleep well. And if they have other kids, they're super stressed out, right? So this is the time where they're having the right products are even more beneficial. And I know, looking at multiple studies that I've read over the years, like every baby that's born on this planet has some level of toxins coming through the placenta, just because of the world we live in. So to me, there's a benefit to doing these things.
And I guess it comes down to mitochondria. So you're creating a baby full of cells. Yeah. Why wouldn't it benefit? Yeah. And all herbs. That's the other thing I think we've got to remember, is that there's no crap in our products. Yeah. There's no extras, don't need to be in there.
Yeah, so it's always good to, ask your physicians, right? But what I would say is, when you ask them and say, hey, because a lot of them don't know, it's not their training, and say, hey, it would be beneficial for me and my baby to reduce our oxidative stress. Would be beneficial for me and my baby to have better mitochondrial function. Would be better for me and my baby to have better autophagy, right? Would be better for me and my baby to have mental clarity, right? So, because a lot of times, there's people, pregnant ladies all the time, drinking and eating stuff that you shouldn't feed a dog, right? And they're not thinking about it. So I like my dog better than something like themselves. What I'm saying is, so that just use that concept when you're talking to people. Bottom line, do no harm, but always ask, this is a very natural product designed to support natural health functions. Someone asked a question here about maltodextrin, and I get that all the time. So I'm just going to address that really quick. I haven't seen the full version of the other ingredients in it. So if it is in maltodextrin, it probably is. Maltodextrin is a flow agent. All right. So what that means is when you formulate anything, in order to get all the ingredients to mix well, they have to have something that keeps it from caking together. Right. And so they use maltodextrin, which is from a non-GMO corn, that allows it to not stick. So if you eat rice, if you eat potatoes, if you eat corn, you eat maltodextrin. Right. So there's some stuff out there on the internet about maltodextrin and it's bad. Well, depend on how it's made. Some is chemical processed, some is water processed, right? So there are different ways that you can make things. Just like oil, you can do cold pressed olive oil, you can heat pressed olive oil. I want to do cold pressed because it changes the oil if you heat press it. So the maltodextrin it's a worldwide accepted flow agent that is inert, and so it's a polysaccharide. All it means is it's a carbohydrate. That's why you have to have the carbohydrate listed on the package.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and then I've got one little quick question for you that you may or may not be able to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway because there's no harm in asking. So someone's asked about our products and cancer and chemo. So again, I'm sure you're going to say exactly the same thing. Go to your physician. Ensure that it is not going to interfere with any of the medications that they are currently taking. Yeah. What is your thoughts, advice on that?
So I'm gonna give you thought or advice, but just talk to your physicians on that and just ask the question kind of how I addressed it. I've worked with a lot of physicians over the years, people actively going through chemo, people post chemo. It really depends on where the physician lays on that, and then monitoring the numbers. I've done it both ways. I've done post chemo, worked with people a ton on that and help them rebuild after chemo and radiation. And I've done some during the process of the chemo, and they're watching their numbers. Right. So I can't really be real direct on that because really it's case dependent and doctor dependent. If it was me, I would absolutely be doing it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the last question is this product launch coming out in October. Is that another activator?
Is the product in October? I'm not at liberty to say.
Gah! Damn it.
The thing is, but you guys are getting NAD and Axio.
And collagen, hopefully, fingers crossed for the first quarter of 2023.
When you get the collagen, it's gonna blow your freaking mind. I had no idea to do what it's done. So I'm beyond excited for you. Axio's got me to this company. Please get your friends and family to try this. It's a game changer for people for focus and concentration. All these people that are struggling out there with just, struggling in the afternoon, struggling with focus, just feeling overwhelmed all the time, please, 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 like get them started on it. It's going to change their lives in so many ways. Like people post concussion, stuff like that, please, it's going to change their lives. And then the same with the NAD, huge benefits, but the collagen, like just like there's so much benefit to that. It's
So it's
unbelievable.
quite funny. I have a funny story. This morning, I was literally, my partner said to me, have you had your lips done? And I, for the past 7 days, have been back taking my collagen shipment just arrived. And I have been back taking my collagen religiously every day. And I said, no, I haven't had my lips done in months. She said, well, your lips are definitely getting bigger. So that is something that we are so, so excited for collagen. But oh my gosh, I am so grateful for you jumping on here. I know that it's late for you overnight or late for you and you've just got off a plane from Croatia. So thank you from the bottom of each and every person that is listening to this, who's going to share this, for your wonderful wisdom, your knowledge. And wow, we are so excited. And I'm going to literally get an email charted right now to Pam and Claire to get you on a plane to Australia so that you can meet each and every one of us in person.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, you guys have a phenomenal night. I'm excited for you to have it. And collagen, just so you know, collagen is much bigger than skin, hair, and nails. Like when you go look at collagen and brain function, look at collagen and gut health, look at collagen and brain health. There's so many cool things like that you guys are going to just absolutely love. Hopefully we'll get to see some of you guys at convention in October. I know it's a long trip, but grateful to connect with you guys. So have a phenomenal evening or day, I guess, where you guys are.
Thank you so much. Happy Saturday and happy Sunday, guys, who are in Australia. Thank you again, Dr. Brimhall, and we can't wait to see and hear from you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.